Alright guys, as some of you may know, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've been searching all over Netflix to watch Dragon Ball episodes, but unfortunately Netflix here just doesn't have them. But you know which version of Netflix does? Netflix Japan. Some of you might be wondering, how on earth am I accessing Netflix Japan, right? Well, that's where NordVPN comes in. NordVPN is one of the top VPN services out there. It allows you to mask your location and browse securely, which is perfect for protecting your privacy. Plus, NordVPN can basically change your location to anywhere in the world with just a few clicks. So it's just as easy as that. That's how I'm able to access Netflix Japan and binge all of the Dragon Ball episodes that I can fathom. It's not just about watching international shows, however. NordVPN adds an extra layer of security basically as you're browsing, so your personal information stays safe and your online activity remains private. If you want to unlock more content and protect your privacy online, head over to nordvpn.com/Harariboy to get over 70% off a 2-year subscription plus 3 months free. And if you don't like it, you can cancel within 30 days and get a money back guarantee. It is worth the peace of mind and extra content you'll have access to. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the Harariboy Podcast. In today's episode, we'll be going over the 7 baby steps of Dave Ramsey, as well as his viral investment advice he recently gave. I will also go over how to navigate the housing market, career choices, and much more, so stay tuned for today's episode. Now for today's sponsor, Rogue Energy. If you love energy or if you love hydration, Rogue Energy is your one-stop shop. I personally love to use the energy supplement as it helps me focus when I work, and it also helps me power through workouts when I go to the gym. I also love to use the hydration whenever I go out for a run or do any type of cardio activity. It really helps me replace my lost electrolytes. Make sure to use my code Harariboy at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Alright, so as mentioned, in today's episode, we will be going over the Dave Ramsey baby steps. We'll also be going over a viral moment he had recently when talking about nest eggs and how much you should withdraw. I'll also go over how to navigate this crazy housing market in these times. I will also go over career choices that require a degree, and as well as career choices that don't necessarily require a degree. Finally, we'll wrap things up by going over millennial career choices as a whole, and you guys can kind of see where the market's at, and if you guys are on the fence on what field you'd want to choose, this will help you get some insight on it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at this clip where Dave Ramsey is explaining the baby steps, and I'll go ahead and break them down for you.
You have to make money behave. You have to make choices with it. And so our first choice is we're going to engage the baby steps. Now, what I've decided to do is I got people that have actually won in some of these areas of the baby steps, and they've actually accomplished the step that we're going to introduce to you, and they are going to help us introduce the baby steps each time. So that's the process. Now, let's talk about the baby steps. Baby step 1 is $1,000 cash in the bank. That's your very first one. I want you to do that really, really quickly. And baby step 2 is you do the debt snowball, and we're going to work on that in the debt lesson in detail on how to get out of debt. And then baby step 3, you're going to finish your emergency fund 3 to 6 months of expenses and savings. Baby step 4 is invest 15% of your income, and we're going to do that with the investing lesson and with the lesson on retirement and college planning. And baby step 5, college funding. We're going to go through that whole process as well, show you how to do that. 6 is pay off your house early, and the last baby step is build wealth and give a bunch of it away. We're going to teach you to live like no one else so that later you have the opportunity to live like no one else. We're going to teach you to live like no one else so that later you have the opportunity to give like no one else.
Alright, so as you saw there, those are the 7 baby steps in a nutshell. Let's go over each one and break them down even further. So baby step 1, to save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund. So in this first step, your goal is to save $1,000 as fast as you can, no matter what. Your emergency fund will cover those unexpected life events that you possibly can't plan for. And there are plenty of them. You don't want to dig any deeper than you already are with your debt. However, I do understand $1,000 might not seem like much at first, but trust me that for many families has covered a lot of surprising things and has helped them prepare and get out of debt. Alright, so from there we have baby step 2, which is pay off all debt except the house using the debt snowball. Now the debt snowball is nothing new. A lot of creditors like to use that phrase as well. Basically all it is that you pay your smallest debt up to your largest debt. The idea behind this is that, yeah, you can go for the lower APR credit card and logically think like, hey, it'll be mathematically more beneficial for me to do that. However, what people fail to understand is money is 20% head knowledge and 80%
behavior.
So your emotions pretty much dictate your financial situation for the most part. So what I mean by that is when you use this debt snowball method, you will find out really quickly, like, hey, after you pay off the first little debt, then the next little debt, and so on and so forth, that you'll start to build this momentum that will definitely encourage you to keep going and persevere through it all. And that's how you can be debt free in as little as 1 to 2 years, you know. And then he talked about baby step 3, which is once you're out of debt, now is when you actually save for the real emergency fund. This is called a fully funded emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses approximately is what you're estimating for here. Yeah, again, this is right after you get out of debt. So just build up that fund. Just think about, write a whole list, a whole budget of what you think your expenses are going to be on a month-to-month basis, whatever the case might be, and then from there, just keep that somewhere in your bank account. Never touch it unless an emergency that qualifies comes up. So once you actually have done the first 3 baby steps, you've built the foundation to further your financial success. So this is where we come to baby step 4, which is invest 15% of your household income into retirement. So you should be doing that right after baby step 3, right after you have that savings. If you have a 401k, max it out to 15%. I mean, you're getting that free money from your employer, the match, and then on top of that, you're getting the growth. And if you invest in 15%, I mean, that is the recipe for retiring a millionaire. So definitely take advantage of that. And I highly suggest it. I also, within this step 2, as well in baby step 4, is that when you are investing for retirement, you also have the option of the Roth IRA. So some people like to do both, some people like to do either or. I will kind of explain the difference between the two and which ones you should opt for, in my opinion. So a 401k is pre-tax, which means you don't pay taxes on it right up front right now, but your taxes are postponed until when you retire, and then you pay a big chunk of it to your to the IRS pretty much. The Roth IRA will help you save on taxes by front loading your taxes, so you're paying taxes on that money you're investing now, as opposed to later when it grows into a big large sum of money. So you would always want to pay in the front end rather than when you retire, because you will be paying significantly less in taxes that way. So those are the 2 key differences between the 2. It's all preference at the end of the day, but I like the Roth IRA so that I can save on taxes pretty much. Who likes to pay taxes, right? So yeah, from there we go to baby step 5, which is save for your children's college fund. Now, I like to point out baby step 5 and baby step 6 can be done simultaneously. They don't have to be done in order. This is because the children's college fund, although it might seem like a necessity at the front end, it's really a privilege. So if you have a child that's not really excelling in school and they're going to need a college fund later on to help them in the case and scenario where they won't have a scholarship or anything like that, and then it's good to have it as a safety net just in case. And then even for those kids that do have scholarships, if they need extra money, that money's there for them. But if you have a child that's kind of entitled and is pretty much misbehaving, not following your rules, stuff like that, this is where baby step 5 is kind of optional. So this is why in baby step 5 and baby step 6, which is pay off your home early, if you decide to pay off your home early first before you save for your children's college fund, that's your prerogative. Again, they could be done simultaneously. I do highly encourage baby step 5 and saving that for that college fund because, again, it's a safety net for your kids, and it's definitely good to have and kickstart them for a good financial future. But paying off your home early in baby step 6, if you choose to do it in order, will be the next step, and that is just as important. You want to free up your biggest monthly expense, which is your home. My dad personally, when we moved to a house, he paid off his house in 5 years. He kind of educated us to do the same in the future. All he did was work tirelessly, and every money that he got, he just pretty much put towards the house. And that's what I want you guys to do here in baby step 6, in order to pay off your home early. That will really free you up, and then you can have more money to invest later on. So speaking of investing, we then come to baby step 7, which is the final baby step, which is build wealth and give. Dave Ramsey likes to use the phrase, live like no one else now so that later you can live and give like no one else. Yes, as Muslims, we should be giving, to charity every chance that we get, right? However, especially when Allah has blessed us with more money and wealth, that's the time to give more, right? So you want to financially prepare yourself for this last baby step, so that way you can be as generous as well as prosperous in your wealth going forward. So in a nutshell, those are the baby steps. We will go over them in more depth in future episodes, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys some background in just what the baby steps can do for your financial well-being in the future. And so pretty much that's it. That's how you become wealthy and retire. Also, guys, make sure to check out my merch. I do a new merch drop every single month, so link is in the description below. Go ahead and check that out. And now for the baby step I really want to focus on for today's episode is really baby step 7, that investment, build wealth baby step. Recently, Dave Ramsey had a take on it. I'm going to go ahead and play it for you, and I'm going to go ahead and give you my reaction.
Jay's in Kansas City. Hi, Jay. How are you?
I am blessed. How are you, Dave?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Well, before I start, I want to thank you for your foundations curriculum for high schoolers and homeschoolers, because without that, I wouldn't be debt-free today.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Were you a student in it or a teacher? Or
I took it as a homeschooled student years and years and years ago.
Wow,
Good
that's
for
fun.
you,
My
Jay.
question today is, I'm baby step 4, 5, and 6. I have about $120,000 saved for retirement. That's across my IRA, my Roth IRA, my wife's Roth IRA, and the 401k.
How old are you?
And 30 years old.
Good for you. Well done.
Thank you. I feel, from what I've been running the numbers with, that I'm on the teetering edge of coasting financial independence. And I'm trying to best understand my plan with the end in mind. So, how I'm going to turn that nest egg when I retire into income. I found on your website a little article that talks about 4 to 5% withdrawal rate. And I was trying to run the numbers around that, and I thought I was close. And then about a month ago, George Camel released a video that said that the withdrawal rate for a 30-year time horizon should be closer to 3%. So if I can establish financial independence comfortably, then I was wondering if I could ease up on baby step 4 to pay off the house faster.
Okay, I'm a little confused because I don't know what the hell George is doing a 3% withdrawal rate, because that's absolutely wrong. I'm going to have to find out where that video is and get it taken down. Because that's just wrong. You don't need to have a 3% withdrawal rate. That's ridiculous. Or I hope you misunderstood. I hope we didn't put out trash like that.
Was it 4 to 5%?
No, it shouldn't be 4 to 5%. It ought to be more than that. I mean, if you're making 12 in good mutual funds and the S&P is average 11.8, and if inflation for the last 80 years has averaged 4%, if you make 12 and you need to leave 4% in there for inflation raises, that leaves you 8. So I'm perfectly comfortable drawing 8. But if you want to be a little bit conservative, 7, but sure not 5 or 3.
Well, I was trying to back check it because, 3 to 5, I thought that was a big range. And a lot of the studies I found showed
there's a lot of studies that are stupid in this space. It's just wrong.
So
Listen, man, the math I just gave you is the math. If you're making 12% and inflation is 4, and you leave 4 in there, so your nest egg grows by 4, it's simple. 8 is what's left over. So if you got $1 million and you leave 4% in there, that's $40,000. Okay, so you now have $1,040,000. So the next year you get a rate of return of 12%, 11.5% on the $1,040,000, and the next year it'll be $1,090,000. 1.1, right? Because your nest egg is growing by the rate of inflation, giving you a cost of living. If you want to be a little bit conservative, maybe 5%.
Would you say?
But there's all these goobers out there who have always put this 4% crap in the market, and I'm just irate right now that we have joined the stupidity.
Why is it that stupid?
Low, because it's not realistic. You do not need to live on 4% of your money for your nest egg to survive.
Yeah, even if you did a rate of return of 10% or something.
Yeah, and what it sets up is now he doesn't think he's got enough money, and he's already got $120,000, and he's 30 years old, and he's on a plan. He's on a plan to be very wealthy, and he's worried he's going to have enough money or not.
Yeah.
Because stupid people put out low withdrawal rates. Like you,
but
listen,
wouldn't you rather?
If you think you can only pull off 4% off of investments making 12, where the flip is the other 8% go? Well, 4% of it went to inflation. That's where it went. The other 4% is just sitting there. So you are growing your investments instead of living off of them. I'm not destroying the nest egg. I'm not even touching the nest egg. I'm growing the nest egg by leaving 4% in there.
Yeah.
Taking 8 off of a 12 growth rate.
So go a 10% rate of return. Go a little bit more conservative with your rate of return. Go 10%. What would you do with 10%?
Well, then 4 off of that, so 6.
6, yeah.
But why are you going to underinvest? The problem is when you go down these stupid nerd rabbit holes in these Reddit threads with these morons who live in their mother's basement, then you put that out into the dadgum community, and then people go, I don't have enough money. It's hopeless. I'll never be able to save enough to retire. $1 million should create for you an $80,000 income, boys and girls. So you should, perpetually, like if forever, you should be able to pull 80,000 forever and never destroy it. Now and so when you tell people that $1 million creates a $40,000 income, you go, oh, I've got to have $2 million and I can't make that, then this system doesn't work. So what you're doing with this bogus math is you're stealing people's hope. That's why I'm pissed. It's hope stealing with super nerds that have never really done anything to start with. They don't have any investments. They just have theories. My money is actually invested exactly the way I teach people to invest it. And I'm easily making 12% on my money. Easily. Average throughout a decade.
Yeah.
So it's just asinine that we do this stuff. So no, honey, you need to save 50% of your income in baby step 4 till you get your house paid off. When your house gets paid off, you will increase your investing ratios above that. You are not going to retire poor from 4% withdrawal rate morons who are telling you this is the thing. So, God, it's just aggravating. So,
I can see the hope stealing.
Because it makes people think they need $2 million when they only need $1 million.
Yeah.
Or it makes them think they need $8 million when they only need $4 million.
Yeah.
And here's the way, the end of the story is this. No one ever actually ends up ever with what you thought you were going to end up with.
Right.
Ever. So you're sitting there at 30 or 29, these projections, which is okay to do the projection.
Sure.
And you project out there and you go, okay, I'm going to have $1.7 million at this current rate. Yeah, but what you haven't factored in is between now and 35 years from now when you're 65, you're going to run into flying monkeys, wicked witches. Have you seen The Wizard of Oz? You're going to be on the yellow brick road sometimes.
And
Glinda,
sometimes
you're going to have
witch.
money drop in your hands
Who's great.
out of nowhere. You're going to make more money than you ever need. You're going to have ruby red slippers sometimes, and sometimes you're going to have flying monkeys stealing. At the end of the story, your little projection is not accurate. You're going to make usually most people end up with about 2x of what they thought they were going to end up.
All right, so you saw what Dave Ramsey had to say there. I personally agree with him. I know he's had a lot of pushback online from a lot of people regarding this particular topic, and to be honest, you don't need to get over analytical, and I'll explain why. If you look for the past 50 years, the rate that inflation has been going, on average, again, there might be some high years, there might be some low years, but on average, it has proven to be a little over 4% year over year. So that's the average, and if you take the average rate of return on the simple S&P 500, let's say, since its inception, it has grossed an average of 10% year over year on average. So when you do the math, 4 minus 10, theoretically, if you want to be conservative enough, you shouldn't go lower than 6% in retirement. So you should be able to withdraw 6% every year, and theoretically you will be able to gain 4% every year to basically make up for inflation. Me personally, I invest a little bit more aggressive, so I'm happy withdrawing 10% if it has been proven that I've been making 15% year over year, right? So again, there are various different mutual funds out there, various different places you can invest in. But when you take the averages, you might have some years where you increase 20%, 30%, some years where you lose 50%. That up and down roller coaster is where you draw the line and get an average, and that's really what you base your retirement income off of. If you get overly analytical about it, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of formulas you can put in, but really, when it comes to probability formulas, no one can predict the future, honestly speaking. You could inherit $1 million from a family relative you never knew, right? Or the opposite could happen. You could have done a very bad business deal that completely bankrupted you, may God forbid. These are all factors that we really can't predict when it comes to the future. So that's why the best indicator for the future is past performance. You analyze past performance of the stock market and inflation. That should give you a good goal for retirement. All right, so for our next segment here, how to navigate this crazy housing market. Trust me, I understand this fully well. Let me go ahead and play another clip from Dave Ramsey explaining this further, and I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts.
Tanner's with us in Washington, D.C. Hi, Tanner. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So my question is, I'm curious about the flexibility of spending more than 30% of your take-home pay on rent. Found that pretty difficult to do, especially in like an urban area like DC. I live in downtown. I make around $90,000 a year, post-grad 23-year-old. I got $20,000 in cash and $7,000 in an investment account, and my only debt is around $7,500 in student loans, and I spend about $2,000 a month in rent, which is my biggest expense by far. But I still find myself able to save and spend less on other things. I'm just curious your take on that approach.
Okay. Well, we tell folks to put 25% of their take-home pay aside for housing. And no, math works in every city and in every state. You don't get a pass on math because you're in Washington, D.C., even though Congress thinks you do.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, a lot of people think they do.
Yeah, a lot of people in D.C. think you do, but you don't. And the purpose behind it is not that 25% is magic, Tanner. The purpose behind it is don't be house poor. If you find yourself able to save and able to invest because you keep all other parts of your lifestyle so low, then you're okay. But what happens to most people is when they've got a high cost of housing in their budget, it squeezes their budget and there's not room to save up to buy the next car. So the next car becomes debt. And there's not room to save up for Christmas, and Christmas becomes debt. And there's not room to save up for a couch, and the couch becomes debt, and because it's all going out in house payment. And so, in effect, what you did is you didn't, by squeezing yourself, you did that. Now you're telling me you've made room in your budget and you're doing okay. Then if whatever you want to do, brother. But here's the thing: whatever you spend on rent is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're just setting fire to $100 bills in the middle of the floor. And so the more $100 bills you burn in the middle of the floor, the less money you got, man. I mean, it's a pretty simple equation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely reduces the ability to buy down the road for sure.
Yeah, I mean, because you're giving it to them in rent. And so I don't know how you fix that exactly necessarily in your situation. Maybe your commute is longer. Maybe there's a roommate involved, or maybe you just say, it's going to cost me this, and it's my choice, and I'm an adult. Well, yeah, you're allowed to do all that. But our reason to giving you the 25% guideline, it's not a rule, it's a guideline, is so that you don't become house poor. Because if you're, for instance, going to get a mortgage, folks in America, the stupid mortgage company will approve you for almost double that. I mean, they'll approve you close to 50% of your take-home pay, 36% of your ratio, and so, and that's not based on take-home pay, the 36, that you can get a house payment up to, close to half of your dadgum take-home pay, and there's just no way that budget works, people. And, well, I'm in California. Well, California, they got to do math too, even though your governor doesn't think so. You got to do math, it's not an option. Math is math, and it's not a moral construct. It's a math thing.
Well, to win, Tanner, in professional world, financial world, you've got to sacrifice. Everybody who wins has to sacrifice something. And what we've done here with this 25%, you are now having to choose. Do you want to sacrifice money, as Dave said, by burning those extra $100 between the 5% that we're talking about? Or do you want to sacrifice a little bit of your time? Now, you're living downtown D.C., that's premium. And I get it. You may work on the Hill, who knows what you do, but you're there for a reason. But if you move out into the suburbs of Northern Virginia, I know it well, yes, it's a headache. But we'd rather you sacrifice the right thing, and that's why we put this. I want people to understand what we're teaching here. It's not to be hard and fast on a rule. It's to help you learn what you need to sacrifice. And in my situation, if I were in your situation, Tanner, I would be sacrificing my time, not my money.
Yeah, 23 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will tell you this, Ken. I did it worse than he's doing it. Sure. Worse.
Yeah, he's in good shape.
My wife and I get out of college, and here's how stupid we were. We go and rent we have 2 dogs. We're just out of college.
Yep.
We got 2 little jobs. We go and rent a 3-bedroom townhouse,
Sure.
luxury
Right.
thing
Sure.
that's like 5 times what we needed because we thought it was cool.
Do you remember what were in the extra rooms?
Nothing.
Sure.
Because by the time we finished paying the freaking rent, we had no money.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing was moving into a little 1-bedroom apartment in a questionable, I don't know what those ladies down the hall were doing, in a questionable situation. And
You were hoping you weren't on a Vice episode.
yeah, man,
or,
I'm telling you. And we lived there for a year, but it was 1/3 the rent that we were paying before. 1/3. And so that'd be like you had an $1,800 rent, and we moved down to a $600 rent.
Right.
Kind of thing today. In today's dollars, it was a lot less than that back when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. But yeah, oh my gosh, wow.
Well, see, I hear that.
I did the exact same crap.
No,
okay?
I get it. But
Because
to
I
your
wanted
point,
something nice, and I had a job.
Yeah.
And I'd gotten out of college, and I deserved it.
We
But
have
I
a
was
lot of
stupid.
23-year-olds that are in a very similar situation to Tanner. Now, just think about this. If he gets a roommate, and now he's saving, let's just call it $1,000 a month, okay, splitting the rent. He's paying off that student loan debt of $7,000 really, really fast, and now he's just stacking money.
Yeah,
so that's what we're
stacking
talking
cash. Stacking cash, man. It's so much smarter than renting.
All right, so you saw what they had to say there. I recently bought a house, and I know how crazy it is bidding against all these investors that have flooded the market. It's a crazy town out here. However, I will reiterate what you need to do step by step. So the first step is save between 5% to 20% for your down payment. This will allow you to have enough equity into the house going in. That way you're not strapped going into the house. Speaking of not being strapped down, your monthly payments. You have to make sure your monthly payment is no more than 1/3 of your monthly take-home pay. Typically, ideally, you'd want to be at 1/4 of your take-home pay, right? But 1/3, you should be fine as well. Once you can get approved to up to 50% of your take-home pay, but what's going to happen is that you're going to become what's called house poor, where all your paycheck is pretty much gone by the end of the month because you have a huge house payment and you barely have any money for your bills, let alone savings or investing into your future, anything of that nature. You never want to be house poor. That's like the worst type of poor. I wouldn't say the worst because you still have a roof over your head. However, sometimes you'd see people with a huge house not knowing their internal struggles, and really at that point they're just trying to keep up with the Joneses and not really invest in their future in the long run. So yeah, don't be house poor. Save 5 to 20% for your down payment, and make sure your monthly payment is no more than 1/3 of your take-home pay. I do want to point out that you don't need a credit score to buy a house. Honestly, a credit score is pretty pointless, and here is why. If you make yourself stay away from debt pretty much your entire life, and all you have been doing was save money, invest, you're gonna be fine. I mean, and you've been making your payments on time, water bill, electric, gas, whatever the case might be. What a bank is going to do is what's called manual underwriting, and you can request this. It's not hugely advertised. However, some banks do this, where you can just show them a past history of you making all your payments on time, no matter what they were. You never ever took a loan. You always stayed out of debt, and you pretty much show confidence to the bank that they can trust you with their money, and they can trust that you'll pay it back in full. Really, a credit score is not necessary. It's not necessary for renting an apartment either. Again, it's just pretty much the same process. Are you able to pay your bills on time? Are you trustworthy? Things like that. So there's ways that you can actually navigate. It's actually pretty easy and simple without a credit score. What's happening is that a credit score is a scam. Those people with the 800 credit score are the ones that got duped the biggest, I would say. Although, good credit scores do open you up to better interest rates. When you have an 800 credit score, you basically are telling the bank, I borrowed over $100,000 and I paid it all back. Now give me more money to borrow so that I can pay you guys back more money and interest. Why waste your money on interest when you can have it growing for you in a good growth stock mutual fund? It's just things to think about like that when it comes to buying a house. Don't fall under the pressure of buying a house. I know everybody might be in your ear, especially after graduation, saying, okay, buy a house, buy a house, buy a house now. It's okay to rent for a year or two. Or I'll even go a step further and I'll say, it's okay to live with your parents for 1 year or two right after graduation, and just pretty much stack up all your savings. That's also one way to go, and a lot of people that do that end up being very financially prosperous compared to their peers who started renting or living on their own right out the gate. They kind of had a financial upper hand, let's say. But yeah, there you have it. That's how you buy a house in 2024. Let's hope for a good New Year's. They are saying that the rates are going to come down, but I will say that if you follow these steps, none of that should matter to you. You should be good to go. Now for our next topic, career choices. We'll be going over ones that require a degree and ones that don't. Believe me, you'll be very surprised at the ones that don't. So, lucrative careers, starting out, I have doctor on here, number one on the list. Obviously, there's almost no way that you can be a doctor without a degree. Me personally, I wouldn't want a doctor operating on me that doesn't have a degree. So there's that. There's just a lot of risk involved with that, and but if you do go to school fully for 8 years, it is a highly rewarding career financially, etc. I will say that on the list of millionaires study that was found, top 5 career choices that end up becoming millionaires later on in life, doctor was not on there. So that just goes to show that there's a right way to pursue this and a wrong way to pursue it. I had a friend of mine that did it the right way. He got his bachelor's degree in a lucrative career, in a career path pretty much, and he worked for 2 years at a hospital, and from there he went to med school. People do the opposite. They study pre-med, which really doesn't give them much career outcomes after graduation. So then they go straight into med school and rack up a lot of debt, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And those are usually the callers that call into Dave Ramsey asking about how to pay off their student loan. So yeah, definitely if you want to pursue the doctor career path, do it the right way. Next up, I have lawyer. So lawyer is the second on the list. It's another lucrative career. It's not as expensive as med school, let's say law school, but it is pretty dang expensive, especially if you go to like a Harvard or a reputable law school. It's a very lucrative career. This is one of the careers that you can end up making millions off of if done right. Again, you just want to stay away from having a big load of student loan debt as much as possible. work as a paralegal while you go to school, work for a company that will pay for your law school, things of that nature. Those will set you up for financial success. Next up, we have engineering. So engineering does require a degree for the most part. When you're talking about civil, mechanical, electrical, things like that. I will say that this is a lucrative career path. A lot of engineering degrees don't cost as much, don't cost that much. If you go to like a Georgia Tech, let's say, for example, I've had people that I knew friends that literally was paying $6,000 a semester, which ends up being $12,000 to $15,000 a year, pretty much for them. And a lot of them don't have student loan debt, surprisingly. So engineering is definitely one that I recommend. It's one path that you can pursue. Architecture is the last one. Yes, architecture does require a degree. However, we'll go over some other career paths within architecture that don't require a degree as well. So yeah, let's get into it now. Career paths that don't require a degree. Number one, I have design drafting. Again, this falls under the umbrella of architecture and engineering. So when you become an architect, and I'm talking about, after putting years in, or if you become an engineer, professional engineer, you have your PE license, whatever the case might be, you're not going to be doing the grunt work. You're just going to be signing off on stuff pretty much. So the people that are going to be doing the grunt work, let's say, the design work, are the design drafters. They're going to make all the drafts using computer-aided software, and then they'll pass it on to the architect to get stamped. Why is this number one on my list? Well, because it's a very lucrative career. It's highly demanding in terms of hours, but they do get paid well. I've seen $30 to $40 an hour on average for these positions, and a lot of people definitely love doing it. So there's that. Next up, we have construction trade work. So construction trade work, think about mechanical, electrical, plumbing, being a plumber, whatever the case might be. You'll be surprised, like a lot of these tradesmen, let's say, are in the six-figure range, right? And I know you might be thinking like, that's a lot of hard work, it's tough on the body. Well, the good thing about construction trade work is that you don't have to be doing it forever. I believe if you just put in 10 years worth of work, you immediately pretty much get a management position where you're actually running crews out there on site, not doing the work yourself, just managing the paperwork side of things, and you're getting paid a lot of money for doing that. So it's a very good lucrative career choice if you are if you don't have a degree, or if you're not trying to pursue a degree. Number 3 is a very good one as well. Software engineering. Now, I'm not just saying anyone can just become a software engineer that doesn't have a degree. There's actually tech boot camps or, online free YouTube videos, if you know where to look, that can actually teach you how to code. So coding is a very lucrative career path, especially nowadays with AI and whatever the case might be. You have big tech companies like Facebook, Google hiring coders or software engineers without a degree, and honestly, people don't even bat an eye if you don't have a degree. They just care if you can code, if you can, develop software, things like that. So that's another six-figure range paying career path that doesn't necessarily require a degree. Engineering technician is next on the list. You can make anywhere from $50,000 to upwards of $100,000 a year in doing this, depending on what type of technician you are in, depending on the discipline of engineering. You have civil technicians, you have mechanical technicians, and you have electrical technicians. They all they're doing is pretty much the hands-on work of the designers. So, for example, civil engineering technicians are the ones that actually stress test the concrete, for example, to see under what stress and pressure the concrete will break at, and how much rebar or reinforcement is required, etc. And you're basically back checking the designer's work, trying to make sure it's practical in real life. Medical technician is also a good lucrative career. They make pretty good money as well. I believe the range is around 50 to 100 as well. And so think about your radiology technicians, people that anesthesiologists that administer anesthesia to the patients. There's a lot of medical tech jobs and stuff like that don't require a degree. They do require training. However, you won't be paying for a 4-year degree in any of these fields. So yeah, there you have it. Now, in addition to everything that I just laid out here, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip from Ken Coleman, which is a Dave Ramsey co-host that goes over career choices. He has a really good video on career paths that don't require a degree. And so I want you guys to go ahead and check that out real quick. Here it is.
All right, Joe, we got some really good news here. We call it In the News. All right, Yahoo News out with some new information. Go Banking Rates identified 10 different jobs that pay the top earners in this industry over $100,000 annually, and these jobs do not require the traditional 4-year degree. I got somebody's attention, didn't I? And this is data that Go Banking Rates pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I'm going to roll through these pretty quickly. Again, you can find this on Yahoo. And here we go. Number 1, no particular order here, aerospace engineering and operations. Annual salary for top earners, $99,970. Woo! That's nice. Next, air traffic controller. Annual salary for top earners, $176,000. That is a high-stress job, though. I'm going to tell you right now, you better be wired for this. You want to talk about talent? You want to talk about natural talent? You better be a pretty chill, low-key reactor. That ought to be one of your soft skills. Let me tell you who would not do well as an air traffic controller. Joe Hankin and Ken Coleman. Neither one of us.
Say what? I would be a great ATC. Air traffic
Joe,
controller.
really?
Yeah.
I don't want to do this right now.
Okay.
Your colleagues are going, no chance. So I'll just leave it at that so that I'm not the bad guy, because I included myself in that.
Okay.
Joe, the way we're wired, that you got to be really relaxed with a lot of stuff coming at you and super, super low key and chill. You're not. You're very jumpy. Nathan, on the other hand, would be a great air traffic controller. Trevor, the YouTube, you would. You know that. Because here's what's going on. You're talking life and death decisions, a lot of stuff coming at you. You got to be like really, really chill. And Joe, you and I, we're passionate guys. We've got a little bit of the we've got the jet fuel in our veins. Nathan's got embalming fluid. You took that as a negative. No, it's not a negative, bro.
No, Nathan is smooth. You're all right.
All right. Thank you. Joe has now walked back into self-awareness. All right. Next, crafts and fine arts. Now, I got to tell you, this one was interesting to me. The annual salary for top earner is $106,000. This really comes down to how good you are at creating stuff like glassware, pottery, textiles, even illustrators, painters, and sculptors. So I want to put a caution note by this one. You don't need a college degree. What they're pointing out is obviously you just go out and start putting your stuff out at the old flea market or farmer's market or whatever. If you do really good pottery and you build it over time. But what I'm going to tell you is you better have a day job if you're going after this kind of thing. All right, next, dental hygienist. Annual salary for top earners, $103,000. Dental hygienists. But again, let me tell you something. You may not need the 4-year degree, but you better be precise. Because I promise you, if you get up into my gums, you get one shot. And then on the second try, Nathan, I'm out of the chair and I'm going to the dentist. I don't care where he is. I'm going, hey, listen, that person stays out of my mouth. All right? I don't want you touching my teeth. Got to be precise, Joe. Next, elevator installer and repair. Think about how many elevators there are. I would have never thought of this. Annual salary, $124,000. Now listen, this is the person who you like fixing stuff, like solving problems. Now, Joe, you would be great. See, your colleagues behind you, they're going, that's Joe. You know why you'd be great at this? You love coming in and saving the day. You've got a personal touch. You're mechanically gifted. You could come in and go, we'll get it fixed. We'll take care of it. You're reporting the whole time. Not air traffic control, elevator repair. Let's see. Funeral service manager. Annual salary for top earners, $161,000. Now, let me tell you something. This person, you better have the talent of being very organized, detail-driven, and you better be empathetic and compassionate. You got that? You can be great. This was surprising to me, Joe. Nuclear technician. Doesn't that sound very scary? Very detailed?
Yes.
Huh? You don't need it. You don't need the old 4-year degree. $117,000. And they're monitoring radiation levels and other nuclear activities. So you better like processes. Police or a detective, annual salary for top earners, $109,000. Radiation therapist is next, annual salary for top earners, $128,000. With the increase of oncology treatments and cancer and other diseases, you're going to see more and more of this. You're going to see this grow. And again, this is putting people at ease and putting people in the machine. That's basically what it is. You know, it's like, I'm a little nervous right now. It's going to be okay. I know you're a little chilly. We'll get you a cup of soup when you're done. By the way, all those rooms are freezing cold. So this is information. Make people feel good. Put them in the machine. Do the scan properly and get them out of there. And then finally, and this is where, again, this is where my friends at Bethel Tech, BethelTech.net, they can get you trained in 9 months, less than $15,000. Web developers, annual salary for top earners, $142,000, and that's not going to go anywhere. So there you go. Again, Yahoo is the source, the world's most in-demand jobs that don't require a degree. There they are, 10 of them. You can make over $100,000 as a top earner, and you don't need the traditional 4-year degree. That is good, good, good.
All right, so you saw what he had to say there. Pretty much you have a lot of options when it comes to lucrative careers that don't require a degree. I'm personally not anti-degree. I do have a bachelor's degree in the STEM field. However, I'm just saying weigh out your pros and cons. Make sure that your degree is going to give you a return on investment. The last thing I'd want for you guys is to be in massive student loan debt, like many people have been in the past. So, that being said, we have come to our final segment now, which is an article I found online about millennial career paths. So this article is from CNBC Make It. Almost half of older millennials wish they'd chosen a different career path and what they do differently. So here you guys can actually go ahead and learn from a lot of the people that have been in the industry and what their mistake was, so that way you don't have to commit the same mistake. So starting with number 1, a history degree and few job opportunities. Yes, I have to reiterate, return on investment when getting a degree. Typically liberal arts majors are not that profitable. Like, you don't really get your return on investment there. I'm not saying there aren't artists that actually have lucrative careers making hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions of dollars, but they are in the rarity. And when choosing a degree, you're kind of playing the probability game. And if you're going to pursue, if this is like your passion, like history and stuff, or liberal arts major, just have a backup plan. Say, what's going to be my day job? Okay, am I going to major in a STEM field, do a double major and have history as my second major, or history as a minor? that way you can pursue it after hours and build it into something better, and you're not starving to death. Pretty much your day job is your day career is supporting you, and then you're pursuing your passions on the side. That's what a lot of people are doing nowadays, and it's something I definitely recommend when it comes to those type of majors. All right, so the next one is a $170,000 law degree that doesn't pay off. Yeah, again, you have to do this correctly. I have to reiterate, if you're going to go to law school, again, make sure you either have the money from it for it saved up, make sure you have scholarships, lined up, or make sure that you have someone else paying for it, like your company, whatever the case might be. But the last thing you want to do is not front the money for a degree like this, because it could be very expensive, and you don't want to be in the hole $170,000. That's a lot of money, and that's a huge shovel. The average starting salary for most lawyers is around $60,000. So again, that's starting. Of course, you're going to make a lot more later on in your career, but when you look at that, you just have to think about how long you're going to be paying off that debt. So yeah, that's just something to think about when pursuing this degree. Again, law degrees are very lucrative. Again, you can make a lot of money out of it, but please, guys, do it the right way. You want to save your money. You don't want to give it away to Sally Mae. Next up, we have not taking risks early on. So with this one, it's saying in Denver, Stephanie McKay, 36 years old, doesn't have second thoughts about her chosen career, but does regret staying close to home. She was hired right out of college to work for an architecture firm. Okay. Spent the last 15 years building its communications department from the ground up, and now she is their director. Now she's saying, my biggest regret is I had all these desires to leave Colorado and go to New York, and I never did, she says. At the same time, McKay, who is married, a mom of 3 and a homeowner, wonders, if I moved, would I have had the same opportunities or be as far in my career at another large organization? I don't know. So if she could give it another shot, McKay says she would spend more time as a college senior making connections in New York to try and start her career there. All right, so this is another example. I will say from personal experience, some risks are not worth taking. Sometimes when you feel like you are missing out, you're really not. And sometimes when you don't take a risk, you are missing out. So that's up to you. What you have to weigh out is pretty much pros and cons. What are the pros of leaving the city? Am I going to make more money? Am I turning down I'm not talking about averages here. I'm not talking about, I read in New York they're paying $300,000 for my career. Over here I'm just making $100,000. I should just move upstate. No. Actually have an offer in hand and look at the cost of living and do your research, thorough research. And once you weigh out the pros and the cons, if the pros outweigh the cons, I definitely say it's a risk worth taking. And a lot of times, not all risks are meant to be taken, and not all risks are something you're going to regret later on in life. Sometimes you might even look back and say, boy, I'm glad I didn't do that. Look how that would have turned out, So again, just weigh your pros and cons when taking big leaps like that. Staying in a bad job for too long. Okay, this is the next one. And it kind of ties in with the previous one too, in a way. So a lot of people want to take risks in pursuing a higher paying job, let's say, in their career. Again, I'm a millennial as well. I'm not for what the previous generation had done of, staying at the same job their whole entire career, 30 years, 20 years, whatever the case might be. You'll get a lot of employee rewards, whatever the case might be. You might have huge ranking within that company, but at the end of the day, what have you done for yourself? And you don't want to be 60 years old looking back saying like, wow, I haven't done much in my life except for, go into the office, same desk. That really seems like a very boring, depressing life later on. And I don't want those kind of regrets for you guys. Now, I'm not saying staying at a job long term isn't beneficial. Again, it comes down to pros and cons. But in this case, if it's a bad job, don't feel forced to stay there. Find a better situation ASAP. I'm not saying quit right away, but start applying. Like, while you're at that job, making money, ends meet, whatever the case might be, start applying for better jobs, do your research, and then put in your notice and leave. I always like to say, companies can get rid of you at any time. You can also leave the company at any time. Don't ever feel like you're subjected to stay, or you owe your boss a favor, or whatever the case might be. At the end of the day, you have to do what's great for yourself. If you get like a better paying job or offer, doesn't always mean that it's a better job for you. So you might be happy where you're at, making less, but when you go to that new job that's paying more, it might be a very toxic situation for you, highly demanding, and you're just going to go back to hating your life again, right? You don't want to do that, and I've seen that happen with my friends. So definitely, with everything that's been going on since the pandemic, the great the great migration, whatever it was called. That's a real thing. A lot of people are fed up. They're like, I'm not going to put up with all this. Like, these are my terms. If you don't like it, I'm going to up and leave for a better situation that's better for me. And that's definitely the mindset for yourself. You see a lot of companies changing their ways now, being more employee friendly, not working you nonstop, all that stuff. Work-life balance is coming into play with a lot of corporate companies now. So they're really taking a listen to. But if you have people like the previous generation staying at the job for 30 years, putting up with any bad experiences that they may have at that job, you're basically telling them like, hey, treat me however you want. I'll always be loyal to you. And that's not only not good for yourself, it's also not good for the people coming up under you as well. So that's just something to think about there when it comes to staying in a bad job for too long. All right, so a job boom that didn't pan out. Okay, yeah. So this person here, I believe, is a medical technologist. Again, we just mentioned that when they went to go ahead and pursue this field in 2010, it was overly saturated market, and not a lot of companies were hiring. So a lot of those people, especially after 2008 crash, didn't start their careers right away, and it was very hard for them to get a job later on. I will say this: you can't predict these type of things, but if you study something that's very lucrative and you're pretty good at it, or if you ever find yourself in this type of position, you were laid off or whatever the case might be, and you might have an employment gap, I always say just keep up with your experience. Whether you can upskill with certifications, do some one-off gigs here and there pertaining to your field, whatever the case might be. just definitely what you want to do is keep current. And a lot of people do freelancing, right? Find out if your field has freelance opportunities and just freelance to fill in that gap. And then, that way you don't have an employment gap, and it's easier for you to return to the job market once the dust settles, pretty much. All right, so that's pretty much it for the article. Key takeaway from this is always do what's great for yourself first. Put yourself forward. You do this by not going to debt for a useless degree. You also do this by trying to stay out of debt for a lucrative degree. Don't put up with things that you don't have to put up with. Always look for the best situation for yourself. Take necessary risks that you think will pan out in the future. And just always be open-minded, and never close your options or anything like that. So with that being said, it's been a great episode 2, speaking about all these topics to you guys. I hope to see you guys in episode 3. I do have a lot of topics planned for that as well. So hope you guys got a lot of benefit out of this, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace. So do you have a minute to connect? Let's Minect. That's right, guys. I'm officially on Minect now. You guys can go ahead and book me. I will be offering financial as well as career coaching based off of the Dave Ramsey principles, of course. Feel free to contact me, connect with me on Minect, and I look forward to speaking with each and every single one of you.